their eyes or their face is placed higher on their head. So proportionately, it's best when you look in straight and then between the top of your head and the bottom of your face. Hi guys, we continue talking about hats. Today we're gonna talk about hats for the face shape, but to understand what's going on here, I recommend you to watch my previous video that I did last week, which is the full guide into the hats. Very interesting adventure, so I recommend you to watch that one first because you will understand so much about the hats, about their origin, their aesthetic and the styles, and you will know the terms, and this way you will be able to elevate your style, make a step forward. Now, if you watched me before, you know that I don't believe in correcting face shapes. I don't believe in oval face being ideal. I think every face shape is ideal. So here we're not gonna correct anything. We're basically gonna look at what this or that hat can make with your face and whether it's gonna alter the proportion so it would look more weird. We're gonna first check fedora hat and many different kinds of hat that remind us of fedora, like trilby, bowler, boater, sun hat, floppy, cloche, bucket, mariners, newsboy, military, flat cap, baseball cap, beret, beanie, and turban. All those hats you can buy in the shops now. You can incorporate them in your style. Some of them are slightly rarer that you can see, but still we're gonna see which hat is doing what to your face. Hat basically consists of width and height. The crown can be smaller and higher. Today I won't mention some hats because some hats that have pretty narrow niche in terms of how you can express yourself in the style with this hat. For example, fur hats. They are so huge, they're made with fur, so they would fit to everyone. It just depends more on your style rather than on your face shape. And also, just so you know, bigger hats are more flattering just in general than smaller hats. That's another thing. So any fur hat that is already huge, it works as a contrast, similar to when we're wearing chunky boots and our ankles just look so delicate as a contrast to these chunky boots. So similar situation is happening when you're wearing bigger hat to your face. Now, hats that are elongating your head are also in general more flattering than the ones that are shortening your head, because the flatness of the hat is the #1 problem normally for proportions when we talk about finding a good hat for your face shape. First of all, let's talk about oval faces. And oval faces, from my viewpoint, is not the only one ideal face. I think every face shape is ideal, including oval face. Why oval face considered to be the most ideal? Probably is just slightly easier to dress because it doesn't have that extra width. So it's basically harder to make it look out of proportion. Some people with oval faces, however, have some problems with hats because their eyes or their face is placed higher on their head. So proportionately, it's best when you look in straight and then between the top of your head and the bottom of your face, where is the center line? So you can make a selfie or you can just look in the mirror. Where is the center? So if the center is your eyes, you sometimes might feel like the hat is sitting too low on your head or your head is just being too flat. So the ideal would be when brows are right in the center between those two dots, or the skin between eyes and brows. That also looks quite flattering. So sometimes if you have oval face but you still think that hats don't suit you, probably that's just the wrong hat. I will just demonstrate several hats that I have just so you would see the difference. And how you try this, you just make your hair on the back, then you wear a hat. If you have fedora, try to put it just above your eyebrows here, the brim. And then just notice where those outlines, the side outlines of the head go. If they go parallel to the top or they go more triangular, because if you wear a hat like this, you will see it looks more triangular, but at the same time it looks slightly taller here, right? So it lifts it up slightly. So if you need taller but not necessarily wider here, you can wear it like this. If you want the sides be more square and parallel, for example, to widen this part of your head a little bit, because comparing to a wider top, your bottom will look narrower anyways. So this is what is happening. And this is how you can understand the outline of a hat, because some hats, they go really narrow and really small like this. And then you can choose how you wear it. You can wear it without any hair, or you can have some hair at the front like this. Yeah, so if you sometimes notice that your eyes are too high for some hats that you're wearing, probably you're wearing a beret, or you're wearing fedora, or you're wearing a newsboy cap that is sitting just too low on your head, get yourself a higher cap, or just make the hat sit a little bit higher on your head. Also, women with oval faces, they can be so different. Oval faces can be sharp, they can be soft, they can have prominent facial features, just large face in general. The outline is still oval, but it's just face is large. Or it can be face with smaller facial features. All these faces will look a little bit different with the same advice. So next week we're going to talk about body types. That will be much more accurate in this sense. And now I just wanted to add to oval face situation that if you have oval face but still very prominent features, if you're wearing a very thin beanie, your face will look like it just slightly falling down to the front. Then I just recommend you to choose a beanie that has chunky knit. Then also check for newsboy cap and flat cap. That can sometimes make your head look more flat. If we talk about fedoras, trilby, bowler, border, sun hat, flopped hat, that all will look great. Cloche hat, it depends on the style. I talk about it in my previous video. Bucket hat will look amazing. Mariner's cap would look brilliant in case you go for a correct style. Military cap, also pretty similar, casual if you like that style, if you like express yourself in this kind of lines. Beret, also it's a style preference mostly, but you just choose for yourself. If your eyes are again too high, make the beret look a little bit higher on your head. And then turban. Turban is a great way to elongate the top of your head. If your head is elongated on top, if your crown is elongated, or if it's flat, turban is one of those accessories which is elongating your head basically. It's kind of like when you always feel like your hair is flat, it doesn't have enough volume, so you're always striving for a better volume, then turban is great. But turban requires a certain style. It's a narrower style niche. It's a certain combination of elements in your outfit. If you know how to style it, if you know how to incorporate turban, great, you can go for that. Why I mentioned turban, because I just know so many women didn't even try it, but they don't even know how amazing they would look in this. And sometimes it's a great way for everyday style if they don't want to overdo their hair, for example. Now let's go to square faces. Square faces, they normally have quite square jaw, quite sharp jaw, or just prominent squarish jawline here, and maybe on top too. Some of these ladies normally don't like to show their jaw. From my viewpoint, it's just extremely beautiful. The only hats that can actually accentuate it and make it much more prominent than it is, it's a fedora with two deep dents on the sides, meaning the fedora that is too triangle looking. Most of fedoras have these dents on the sides, as you can see. That is a dent. So sometimes if you're wearing fedora like this slightly on your crown, those two dents can narrow down the silhouette of your head on top, and that can accentuate your jaw, make it wider looking than it actually is. The solution for that is not to change the hat, but just wear it more straight and make the brim be above your brows, or some women even put it on their brows. Try that, because then the outline of the hat on top is changing. You see, like that, it looks narrow here, like a triangle. If you wear it like this, here you have this two straight lines. This is why fedoras with wider crown, with taller crown, with crown that has two parallel lines on the sides. Boater hat would look amazing because it also has this squarish top, so it kind of will in a good way accentuate the squarishness of your face. Bucket hat would look amazing because it has these two parallel things. There are several hats that have rounded top. It's bowler hat, sun hat, cloche hat, floppy hat, some of them, and some newsboy caps, some berets, and baseball caps. Normally baseball caps look a bit different. They always look more or less same for every face, so I would not put them there unless it's just sitting too low. If a baseball cap sitting too low, then you might want to just lift it up a little bit. If we talk about all these hats with rounded top, just make sure it doesn't look too soft and kind of making the top of your head smaller and softer. So as a contrast, that can look wider and sharper. That's the only thing, because some floppy hats, they have pretty small crown and they are rounded, and then it goes just trapeze, soft and wavy brim like that. So that can create that contrast. Diana Kruger, she has square face. She loves her newsboy cap, and it's not even captain's cap, which keeps its shape. So she's normally wearing that quite slouchy newsboy cap. It looks amazing on her. So it mostly depends on where the cap is sitting on your head. If it's not sitting too low, you are good. And I'm not talking about beanie. Beanie, yeah, it's rounded. Beanie normally has that extra crown elongation, so that always looks a little bit different, and this is why it's very flattering for everyone, especially when it has that knitted fabric. Normally knits, they can stand straight. It's elongating for your crown, so it's not gonna play any contrast with your face, so it's gonna look beautiful, especially, as I said, if it's whether on the chunkier side or that type of knits like cashmere, for example. It should look good. Just don't go for super small beanie that would hug your head too much and it could be visible. Turban can look great. If it's too small and rounded on top, that can create some contrast. If turban is big enough and is sitting more on top of your head, you're great. Now we have rectangular face, like Angelina Jolie has. And rectangular face is basically also square face, but it's also slightly elongated. Most of the hats will look amazing on you. All those kinds of fedoras. If your face is quite prominent at the same time, just make sure that you don't go for something too tiny and too rounded and small. So hats like small beret, small cloche, small bowler hats, small trilby hat, all those kind of hats, if they are too small and sitting too low on your head, that can actually squeeze the top. As a contrast, quite elongate your face more and make it squarer more. So just look for that. And all those kind of fedoras and beanies and baseball caps, all those other types of different caps, they all will look amazing on you. For a long face, I would probably not recommend going for very thin beanie that would elongate your head on top too much. However, I've seen even those examples, and even those examples I like. I think it's quite universal face for all types of hats. I would be a little bit careful again with those very small hats. Not necessarily rounded hats, but very, very small hats on top. Hats with small top. Check where your eye placement is. Is it a little bit below the center? It's cool. It's just sometimes it can be that eyes are too high and then hats just sit too flat and too tiny and your head kind of looks slightly squeezed by a hat. So don't worry about the size of the head. Size up. Just see how it looks like on you. Don't worry if a hat looks big for you at the shop. It will be quite stunning on you if you just try it. Flat caps, berets, those are the ones that can sit a little bit too low sometimes, but for a long face, I think caps can look quite cool. It just depends more on a style. For pear shape women, they have quite large jaw here on the bottom and it's narrowing down on top. It's like reversed triangle, some people say. So for these ladies, I would just not recommend small hats that have triangular crown like this, especially trilby with small crown. Also pork pie, I would not recommend that with small crown. And I would not recommend anything that has narrowed lines here. So if you choose any hat that has wider lines here, that goes wider, or just straight like bucket hat like that, that would look amazing on you. I would be a little bit careful with cloche hats because they look like small bell and sometimes they sit very low on head and they're squeezing the head a little bit and making head look quite small and rounded on top. So that part can actually jump forward visually when you're squeezing the top part of your head. So just to balance that, choose something bigger on top. If you're buying a beret, get more like a bigger beret rather than something that you have to actually stretch on your head and make it sit quite low on your head. Beanies are great, baseball caps are great, different kinds of mariner's caps if you go for this style, amazing. Sun hat, flopped hat, border hat, great. Triangular face. In my personal viewpoint, triangular faces look great in all the hats. Just because their face is quite thin and small normally on the bottom here, it's hard to squeeze their head too much. So the hats normally look bigger on them. Even stretchy, thin beanie looks cool on them. They can also be short beanie. You can actually find it in the shop by these words, short beanie. And that one reminds us of Leon Killer, amazing movie with Jean Reno and Natalie Portman. He was wearing this type of hat and then she was wearing this type of a hat too. Maybe what I would be a little bit careful with is something just too large. Now, heart-shaped face. Normally it's wide here, it's wide at the cheek area, and then it goes to narrow and pointed chin. And this face is normally slightly puffy, but sometimes we can meet examples that are more dry, like Reese Witherspoon. And Zendaya has this type of face, Hayden Panettiere has this type of face. So for these ladies, the only things that I would be a little bit careful with is something with flat top and quite wide top. Something like pork pie or newsboy, something that would widen it here very much, but at the same time squeezed, at the same time short. So if it's wide, it's not a problem, but it should just be elongated crown. It should be taller. They look good normally with small hats, with trilby, with bowler, with different kinds of fedoras, with boater, with sun hats, with cloche hats. These ladies actually look very cute with these hats, but it requires a certain style. Floppy style, mariner's cap, baseball cap, newsboy cap, unless it's again too wide on the sides and too flat on top. In this case, that can look slightly weird for them. It should preferably keep its shape and be slightly taller than if it goes wide like this on top. Military cap, beanie, beret, all that is great unless it's not too wide and not too flat. Turban. Turban can look very cute on them, but again, it depends on the style. And about turbans and things like this, that's a details more for my next video about body types. Now, round faces. And I noticed that women with round faces, looks like these ladies are the ones that are struggling the most. I actually have round face, like in between maybe round face and heart-shaped face. I definitely use tips from rounder face girls. Basically, for them, everything that is too squeezed, small, and very delicate is making their face look just very big and wide. Again, that tip about fedora. If they're wearing fedora slightly on the back like this, so those two lines and making that top very narrowed down, very triangular, and their face looks kind of like a bottom of a drop. So that's what we don't want. So if you have this kind of fedora, just wear this more straight and just keep those lines parallel to each other and straight like this. Same with bucket hat. Amazing choice for any rounded faced girl. And underneath this video, you're gonna find several links of some hats that I found for you in internet. Yeah, so if you're looking for some kind of hat in internet, just keep in mind that it's best when the crown is slightly elongated. And sometimes they even sell hats where they say tall hat or tall crown hat or tall top hat. But just in general, bucket hats normally are the ones with elongated tops. They look elongated because they have this downward brim that also is helping with diagonal lines, and all the diagonal lines for round faces, they cut the roundness, they cut the circle, or they just don't make it rounder than it is. I don't want to say that we need to make round face look narrower. I would say if we want not to make it rounder as it is, this is why we're choosing this or that style. If round face girls go for beanies, always choose chunky knit. This one is my favorite hat at the moment, and I'm wearing this all the time. Yes, I live in Florida, I know, but I'm driving my scooter. Sometimes cold wind blows like crazy. So you see how chunky the knit is. You see it's standing vertical. So it's extending the crown very much, and it looks bigger than my head. And those side outlines of the head, they don't look parallel even to my face. They are wider and parallel. That is the best thing for women who have round face, and not just round face, just basically who feel that their face is quite big comparing to their crown. Sometimes there's just structure of the heads of some women. If round-faced girls are choosing a beret, again, try to choose something that is stiff in fabric, not too soft, so it would not fall down and kind of de-shape itself. We need something that keeps its shape, and preferably something that you would be able to style slightly higher on the crown or in the center of your face. So even if the top of your beret sticking out here at the front a little bit higher, that already can change the way your face looks. And you can go without any hair on your face and you won't look bald. Don't worry about it. Some women, they are worried about it. Or you can just have your elongated bangs or some parts of your hair sticking here at the front, and then you put all your hair on the back. Now, diamond face shape. It's basically kind of like oval face shape or triangular face shape, but with very prominent cheekbones that are coming forward or coming to a sides pretty much. So for these ladies, I would just say no to something very squeezing the head on top. Something like short beanie or very stretchy beanie with thin material. If your head on top will be too small, then these parts of your face will just look much bigger than they are. But with any other hats, that would look amazing. Hats, on contrary, they will accentuate the beauty of your prominent cheekbones. We want to accentuate them because it's an amazing feature. Also, probably small cloche hats. They can sometimes look quite strange because, again, they are narrower on top and they are going wider right to your cheekbones. So your cheekbones will look larger than they are. Alright, that's it. In my next video, we're gonna talk about hats for the body types. Please stay tuned. Press the join button or subscribe on my Patreon. I'm gonna leave the link down below. This way you will watch all my videos earlier, a couple of days earlier. I see your comments more, I reply on your comments. And it will be a huge help for me and my channel. Thank you so much, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.